Essay number 24, Lectures on Astronomy number 1. So we're reading American Miscellany. This is supposed to be a historic and scientific book, so maybe we've got a little science here. This book was published in 1865. Our last little essay was on the view of Niagara Falls from Clifton House. And now we're moving on to Essay 24, Lectures on Astronomy, on page 72. This is number 1, by Professor O.M. Mitchell. We propose to give in some of the succeeding parts of our work the most interesting and valuable portions of the lectures on astronomy delivered in New York by Professor Mitchell and ably reported for the New York Tribune. These lectures embrace an exposition of the great problem of the universe, the mechanism of the solar system, and the constitution of the starry heavens, with an account of the great modern discoveries and the influence of theories. Professor Mitchell has been engaged several years in establishing an observatory at Cincinnati for the cultivation and diffusion of astronomical science, and has erected one which will vie in excellence with the best in the Old World. All right, that was, I guess, just the preface, little brackets around that paragraph. So I assume now Mr. Professor O.M. Mitchell is authoring the next bit. When we look upon the heavens, when we watch the movements of those silent orbs, when we wing our flight upward and take in the immense range by which we are surrounded, even extending beyond the narrow limits of human vision, can we contemplate the scene without being filled with wonder and astonishment? This same scene opened upon the first eye that was permitted to see the light. And from that hour down through long succeeding ages, this wondrous scene above us has ever fastened the attention and directed the gaze of the best and most wonderful minds that have adorned this earth. The science to which I would direct your attention is one which has furnished the theme for the investigation of the most exalted intellects of every age. And from the earliest observation down to the present moment, we find the human mind occupied in its efforts to solve these mysteries, grasping the most difficult problems and sternly pushing in its investigations onward and onward, until darkness disappears, and light, even a flood of light, breaks in from the heavens upon the victorious soul. And thus it must ever be. God has given these works for our examination, and has given to us intellect by which we are enabled to comprehend their structure. And it is by this that we are enabled to rise, to climb, to ascend, to soar, by our own efforts and by his aid, till we stand upon a lofty summit, whence we look out upon the wonders by which we are surrounded, and behold the evidences of his wisdom, power, and glory, who has created all things in beauty and perfection. Allow me now to direct your attention to the scale upon which the universe is built, and to the grand problem involved in solving the mysteries by which it is surrounded. First, let me inquire if there be laws governing the movements of all these bodies, and if it is possible to ascertain the nature of these laws. Are they to be comprehended by the human mind, or are they beyond the reach of the intellect which has been given to us? I answer, they are not. They are within our reach, and we are permitted to understand them, and in understanding them, we are permitted to extend onward and onward in our career of examination and discovery. The first law to which I direct your attention is the law of motion. If a body be located in space and receive a single impulse, it will move on forever in a right line, and always maintain its onward career, never turning to the right nor left, and never relaxing its speed. Now, is this a necessary law of matter? I answer, it is. There is no necessity why this law, in preference to any other, should have been adopted. It is the wisdom of God which has assigned this law to motion. But why should not this motion be retarded and relax, and decline, and gradually die away? Such laws govern other motions, and why not in this case? Again, we have the law of gravity, and what is this? It is a law which tells us that every particle of matter in the universe attracts every other particle with a force which varies in proportion to the mass and decreasing in a certain ratio with the distance. This is a second law. Another law is this: every revolving body, in sweeping about from its center, has a tendency to fly from that center with a certain force called centrifugal force. Now, combining these three together, we have all the laws which govern the movements and guide the motions of the heavenly bodies. These are simple and easily understood. Then, with these laws at our command, let us examine the structure of our own system, for this shall be our type and model. And passing on, let us essay to reach, if possible, the limits of the universe. Now then, to view our systems, let us move to the sun and locate ourselves on that immense orb. What do we find? A vast globe, 880,000 miles in diameter. Here we fix our point of observation. At the distance of 95 million miles, far as the eye can reach, there is a ball reflecting back the light thrown upon it from its great center. That ball receives an impulse under the action of that force by which it would move forever in a right line, but the attractive power of the sun seizes it, and lo, a planet, bathed in the light of its controlling luminary, is sweeping in its orbit, onward and onward in its swift career, until it comes back to the point whence it started. Has the velocity been diminished? Has it lost any of its motion? No. With the same velocity with which it set out, it reaches its starting point and onward moves again. Now, suppose we were, if it were possible, to fix golden rings in the path of this moving body of such diameter that it might pass through with not a solitary hair's breadth to spare. Such is the beauty and perfection of its motion that from century to century and from age to age, this solitary planet would swing in its orbit around the sun, passing uniformly and invariably through these golden rings with no shadow of variation from its first motion. But stay, while this planet is revolving in the distance, we find another small globe with dim and diminished light commencing its movement, subordinate and controlled by the movement of its centered body, the planet, of its central body, the planet. There is a satellite, the moon, added to the first body, the two sweeping onward, but alas, the accuracy of the original motion of the planet is destroyed forever. It no longer sweeps through these golden rings. As the moon passes in between it and the sun, it adds its force of attraction to that of the sun, and the earth is drawn inward, no longer passing through the points it once so unerringly visited. As the moon swings round on the opposite side, it draws the earth farther from its orbit, and thus we find oscillations backward and forward, perturbations and disturbances, which it would seem no human intellect can grasp or unravel. But this has been done. Go back 3,000 years. Stand upon that mighty watchtower, the temple of Belus in old Babylon, and look out. The sun is sinking in eclipse, and great is the dismay of the terror-stricken inhabitants. We have the fact and circumstances recorded. But how shall we prove that the record is correct? The astronomer unravels the devious movements of the sun, the earth, and the moon, through the whole period of 3,000 years. With the power of intellect, he goes backwards through the cycles of 30 long centuries and summons that as such as and announces that at such an hour on such a day, as the Chaldean has written, that eclipse did take place. Such is the character of knowledge we have attained with reference to the movements of these bodies, but we must go still further. I announced to you that the law of gravitation declares that every particle of matter in the universe attracts every other particle. Now then, add to the system we have imagined two interior primary planets, Mercury and Venus, the planet Mars on the outside, and the 7 asteroids now revolving between the planets Mars and Jupiter. Add to these Jupiter with his 4 moons, Saturn with his mighty orb of 79,000 miles diameter. Add his moons and rings also. Go still further till you reach Uranus. Add his moons. Step out still further to the utmost boundaries now known of our solar system, and bring in that wonderful, mysterious body known as the planet Neptune, whose history is as yet more wonderful and strange than any other belonging to our system. Add all these together. Let each one of these bodies act upon every other, and then is it possible for the human mind to grasp the laws which hold all these bodies in their orbits? Can it roll back the tide of time and tell you that 1,000 years ago, such and such were the configuration of all these planets and satellites? And not only that, but draw aside the veil from the future and show 1,000 years hence that such and such shall be their configurations? With all their disturbing influences, can such truth be eliminated and the whole rendered clear, perfect, harmonious, and beautiful? Yes, even this has been accomplished. But we have not exhausted the problem of our system yet. I have only taken into account the planets and satellites belonging to our own system. There are other mysterious bodies which seem not to obey the laws that govern these movements. While the planets are circular in their orbits and the satellites nearly the same, we find dim, mysterious bodies wandering through the uttermost regions of space. We see them coming closer and closer, and as they approach our system, they fling out their mighty banners, wing their lightning flight around the sun, and speed away to the remotest limits of vacuity. These eccentric bodies, these comets, belong to our solar system and form a part and parcel of the whole. Each and every one of these must be taken into account in resolving the mighty problem of the universe. And they are not to be counted by tens, nor hundreds, nor thousands. Their number is not less than millions. Neither do they revolve in the same plane on which the planets roll, nor in the same direction. While all the planets sweep around the great center regularly and harmoniously, we find the comets pouring in from every possible point, forming every possible angle, and passing out in every possible direction. And yet the perturbations occasioned by these wandering bodies in their long journeys of thousands of years have to be made out. At this very time, the whole astronomical world is intensely interested in watching the return of one of these wonderful bodies. 290 years ago, it visited our system for a short space. The 290 years, its computed period, are now nearly expired. And at this time, every telescope on our globe is directed with the utmost intensity of anxiety to that particular region in space where it is believed the stranger will first make his appearance. Think that we should be able to trace the invisible, unknown movement of these almost spiritual bodies and be able to announce their return with a degree of accuracy that astonishes every intellect. And yet this is the fact. But to what distances do these bodies penetrate into space? When we remember that the periodic time of the most distant of our planets, Neptune, 2,700,000,000,000 miles. No, that's incorrect. Sorry. That's 2,700,000,000 miles from the sun is but 167 years. So yeah, the orbit of Neptune is 167 years. And that the period of some of the comets is not short of 3,000 or 4,000 years. How immense must be the distance to which they recede from our sun? Now, retaining in your minds is the fact I have stated that every particle of matter attracts every other particle, and that if these comets, in sweeping out to this immense distance, fall under the influence of other suns, they are gone from us, never to revisit our systems again. Is it possible, then, that there are other systems which do not interfere with ours and with each other? Is it possible that these forever wandering bodies do not come under the influence of other suns? Is space so boundless, is the universe so limited, that there is room for more than one of these mighty systems? To this point I would ask your attention. You see thus a partial development of the scale upon which the solar system was created, and you can begin to appreciate the nature of the problem of the universe, which has been so far solved that man might attain a knowledge of the system with which he is, in his physical nature, so intimately associated. But there are other objects than planets and comets filling the heavens. Look out upon the millions of stars in beautiful constellations. Behold these magnificent groups in every point of the heavens. Trace out that mysterious and curiously wrought band stretching from one end of the sky to the other, the Milky Way. Give aid to the delighted eye, and through the space-annihilating telescope see millions and millions of suns flashing upon the dazzled sight at once. Surely these bodies are clustered near together. They are not separated from each other by the same amount of space as we appear to be separated from them? Let us examine this for a moment. The astronomer, in order to find his distance from any heavenly body, ascertains precisely the point in the heavens where that body is located. For instance, should we desire to ascertain the distance of the moon from the earth, we should locate one astronomer at a given point on the earth with his telescope directed to the moon. Another astronomer we must station at a place far distant from the first, with his line of sight also on the moon at the same instant of time. The angle of the visual ray with a perpendicular to the Earth's center is carefully noted by each observer, and when this angle is found, the base of their triangle being the distance apart, it is easy to tell at what distance from the Earth the protracted sides would meet. And that point of junction will be the center of the moon. Now let us try the same with regard to the fixed stars and see whether any results are ascertained. We locate two observers 8,000 miles apart, one on each side of the Earth. And from these 2 points, they direct their visual rays to yonder distant orb, but alas, the lines are absolutely parallel. The astronomer is foiled. He gains no point whose distance he can estimate. What now is to be done? He makes the Earth itself a grand traveling observatory, and at the extremity of the diameter of the Earth's orbit, at the end of 6 long months, when the Earth shall have swung itself halfway round the sun, at the immense distance of 200 million miles, he again sends up his visual ray. And now he has a base of 200,000 miles. Surely the angle at the vertex of this immense triangle will reveal the distance. But alas, again it is almost insensible. And if it is And if it be sensible at all, it cannot be so great as to bring the nearest of the stars nearer than 60 billions of miles. With this immense space intervening, is there danger that the comets shall rush against our neighboring suns, even in their long journeys of thousands of years? I think not. And this is another illustration of the immense scale upon which our universe is built. Now, having reached outwards to the nearest of objects, let us stand and contemplate the scene by which we are surrounded. Yonder shines Orion with his broad and beautiful belt, and yonder is the Northern Bear. These groups, so familiar to us, are always delightful to the eye. Go with me until we reach that beautiful star in the northern heavens, Lyra. From that point look out, and what do you behold? Is there any change? Surely there is a new heavens. Yonder is old Orion's belt, gleaming with the same beautiful stars and arranged in precisely the same order as when we left our native earth. All the change is no more than would be made by a change of position with your neighbor upon your own planet. And having gained this unit of measure, we are enabled to go on to the next, till finally, in one unbroken succession, we find them extending outward and outward and outward, till a long extended series reaches in some directions even to 500 successive objects. Then sweep round with this immense line as a radius. All the vast limits in the entire circuit of its range are filled with suns and systems that burn and roll and shine, as do our own. Having gone thus far, it would seem that we are on the uttermost limits of space, and that the human mind, after attaining to that point, must there rest its weary wings. Not so. We are barely at the outskirts of one little island of the universe, a small compass, condensed and united, so that if we were even in the extreme limits which we can reach with our aided vision, we should grasp the whole, all its suns and systems, as it were, in our very hand itself. When we have reached these outer limits and applied the powers of the telescope, exploring space beyond, we find objects coming up from the deep distance and bursting upon the sight, which fill the mind with wonder and astonishment. I have gazed through the mighty telescope upon these sublime objects in the dead hour of the night, when earth's thousands of beating, throbbing hearts were quieted in slumber, when the rapid, furious pulse of busyness was stilled in the arms of sleep. There was a time when my own mind could not take in these objects. It seemed impossible. I could not stretch my imagination to their utmost limits. But now put your eye to this instrument and tell me what breaks in upon your vision. Ah, I see a most beautiful sight. Millions of diamond points sprinkling the blue vault of the heavens. How strange is that other object. Shall I tell you what that object is? Go with me through the regions of space, onward, onward. I see it expanding, increasing. I see diamond points in it lighting up with brilliancy and splendor. As we near the object, we find it expanding till it fills the whole visible universe itself, for it is nothing less than a universe of stars. Where are we now? Look backward, and what is behind? Is our own sun visible in the mighty galaxy? Yes. I see nothing but a dim stain, a nebulous haze. Yet that is the mighty system we have left behind. This is but one, and it is the nearest of all of them. Go off in another direction, and you will bring up not only tens and hundreds, but thousands of these bright and beautiful star islands of the universe, strewed throughout the vast regions of space. It is the business of the astronomer to study not only his own system, but to contemplate the millions of stars, and to go still further out to those mysterious nebulous objects with which the heavens are filled, and tell if, in the long lapse of ages, some mighty change may not be working in these curious and wonderful objects.